Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, and his name is John Arpino. Did I pronounce your last name? Arpino?
You did. Good job. Good job.
Okay, cool. Also known as Jarp's Journey on Instagram. Yeah, I might have pronounced that wrong as well.
That you did. It's JR's Journey, but that's okay.
JR's, okay. Initial for the first name. Got it. Welcome. I would love to have you tell your story for my audience because you've had quite the transformation, very impressive.
Thank you,
and I've been following you for quite some time, and we've had some interactions, and I'm just happy to have you on. So tell us a bit more about yourself.
Sure, man. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on. It's been, I was looking back, it's been a while since we first started following each other for sure. It's definitely been a few years.
Yeah.
So where do I start? So like Cody said, my name is John Arpino. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm 31 years old. I started my weight loss journey, the one that I'm currently on, way back in 2015. For a lot of people who are probably listening to this, losing weight or attempting to lose weight was kind of always in my lifestyle, no matter if it was working or not working, right? Because I feel like a lot of us who have dealt with weight issues for our whole entire life, we could kind of attest to the fact that we've probably been on a large portion of the fad diets that are out there. I was in Weight Watchers at 11 years old. I was the only person of my age that was in Weight Watchers. That's number one. And number two, I was the only male in Weight Watchers at that time in my local Weight Watchers studio. So that was definitely a. Can I curse on the show? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so that was. I bet. So that was definitely a mind fuck. But let me take you back a little bit further. So growing up, I was a really, really sick kid. When I was born, I suffered from meconium aspiration. So after I was born, I, for lack of better terms, swallowed my own shit, and I was in the peds ICU for like 2 weeks in an incubator and all that fun stuff. And then after that, I don't know if it's a correlation of that happening or just genetics, but then I had really severe asthma very early in life. And what that did was it set me up for failure. It became very hard to keep up with kids my age, right? So like, I was on the T-ball team. I was in Pee Wee football and stuff, but past that, like physical activity was super hard for me because of my asthma. And back in the 90s, they didn't have a lot of medication like they have now when it comes to asthma, right? So back then it was like albuterol emergency inhaler, nebulizer medication, and a steroid called prednisone, which is still used heavily to this day. So if any of the listeners know what prednisone is, it's a cortisol steroid that basically opens up your lungs, makes it easier for you to breathe. It has some like, what do you call it? Oh, excuse me. Wow. Like anti-inflammation and stuff like that. It's good for that. The bad part about prednisone is it might be able to help you breathe, but one of the main side effects of prednisone is weight gain, especially in children and young adults. It can either stunt your growth or make you gain weight. So I was 6'5", 520 pounds, so it never ever stunted any growth. It made me big all around, and that really set up the rest of my life to be an uphill battle. Asthma dictated everything that I did in life. It almost was like you could time out the year according to my asthma attacks. So like, this is a really dumb memory, but growing up, I was like notoriously in the hospital for Halloween, Valentine's Day, and the Grammys. And I know that because of the fact that it was like the only thing to watch at the time on the stupid hospital TV was the Grammys. So that's why I know that. But yeah, dude. So like I was like 150 pounds or so in the 5th grade. Like I was the big boy. You know what I mean? Like I was always, oh, you're the husky kid, you're the chubby kid, you're this, you're that. And that became my identity very quickly. And I used my weight as a way to make fun of myself, right? As an icebreaker. I had this ideology that before you had the opportunity to make fun of me, I was just going to make fun of myself. And then that would just kind of, you just wouldn't want to anymore, right? Like, are you going to make fun of somebody who constantly makes fun of themselves the entire conversation? No, you kind of feel a little bit bad after a while, right? Like, all right, this kid's got it. Like, he hates himself. We get it. I call that tactic taking the ammo out of someone else's gun. Like, you can't shoot me. I already shot myself.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
Common one too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we'll fast forward. When I was 22 years old, I was 520 pounds. I was in my house waiting to watch the Mets in the playoffs. So if you're a Mets fan, you know that rarely comes around. And I was suffering at the time from what I thought was just a cold, right? So I'm old school New York Italian. My stepmom is off the boat Sicilian. She comes into my room and she's like, hey, why don't you put some Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest, right? Vicks Vapor Rub and Bacitration cure everything in an Italian household. It doesn't matter what it is. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I've done this 1,000 times in my life. Put some on my chest. She put some on my back. All of a sudden, I guess because of how far off I was with this cold that was quickly turning into an asthmatic episode, the menthol caused my lungs to lock up. And one of the last memories I have is looking at my dad and being like, you need to call an ambulance. So paramedics arrived to my house. Unfortunately, no one was ALS certified on the scene. What ALS certification basically means is that no one was allowed to give me an epinephrine shot. And because they were already there and I had my own EpiPen, I wasn't allowed to give it to myself, which to this day doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, so anyway, they put me on this, I'm going to call it a chair for the lack of better terms, because it was not a gurney, because a gurney would not be able to hold 520 pounds. It literally was like this big yellow rolly chair that they brought into my house. So they put me on this thing, and this paramedic looks at me and he goes, I'm so sorry. And at that point I was like, oh, I'm fucked, right? So like, I am definitely dying today. At this point I'm like floating in and out of consciousness. And I remember being in the back of an ambulance, looking up at the top of the door in an ambulance where the clock was. And I just remember praying to like God and the universe and my dead relatives and whoever, just like, give me one more chance. And if you give me this one more shot, I will 1,000% make it right. Like I really promise, pinky swear. And lo and behold, an hour and a half later, I woke up in emergency ICU, hooked up to a BiPAP machine. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, everything has to change, right now, or like you're going to end up in a grave.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the long and short of it.
Yeah. Nothing like a, near-death experience to help you find the motivation to change. So from there, like, where did you start? Was it you got out of the hospital, you're just like overnight flipped a switch, or did you kind of go gradually?
So like, yeah, there was definitely a flip that was switched. But again, for how bad off I was, it was like how much of that switch could really be flipped. You know what I mean? So the way my process started was very, very slow. I get out of the hospital like a few days later, and obviously had the conversations with my doctors, after being discharged, like, hey, obviously we need to do something, right? Or else, all this is going to go really bad. So what they did was they enrolled me into a pulmonary rehab facility. And basically this place was, it was a facility where old people would basically go when they had a heart attack or a stroke, or they were like involved in a bad accident or something like that, and just to get them up and moving again and whatnot. So it was on the second floor of this building, and it was just like a couple of little circuit stuff, like some resistant bands, a fan bike, 3 treadmills. I don't think there was any sort of weight at all in this place. And then the guy who ran it really thought that he was like the next Jack LaLanne, and he was utterly convinced that he was going to be the man who changed my life, right? So like, didn't really click with the dude. And I have like distinct memories of showing up to this pulmonary rehab facility and like sleeping in the parking lot and like saying that I was going and then not going, which I also did when I started the gym. I would do that a lot of the time, just to get people off my back. But one day in particular at this pulmonary rehab facility, this was the moment where like, I was like, okay, you are really bad. Like things need to change. Right. So I'm on the treadmill, and I have like this 75-year-old woman to the right of me and this like 78-year-old gentleman to the left of me. And they're on these treadmills, and they're boogieing. Like, I'm talking like they're going like a 5.5, 6. And they're just going, doing the thing. And there's me, who is half their age at the time, right? And I'm going like a 0.5. And like, if the person comes and raises it up to a 1, I'm cooked. Like, I'm done. So I was like, all right, you're not going to make progress here. That's number one. This is the conversation I told myself. 1, you're not going to make progress here. And 2, you need to find somebody, anybody, who is going to actually point you in the right direction and not do it because, I mean, listen, there's a lot of notoriety as a personal trainer. If you're the guy who helps a 520-pound person lose a lot of weight, like, that's your testimony. That's going to take you to the moon, right? So I needed to find someone who was just not all about that. And that's when I met my personal trainer, Steve, who's still my personal trainer to this day. And we started our journey, you know, in a regular gym, which was very different. Being so big and so wide and so heavy, obviously, conventional stuff was not what I could do. We had to really go the unconventional route. So like in the beginning for me, a workout was like, you ever see what, I mean, you might've seen the video on my Instagram, but you know, those little like step ups. Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe like an inch, half an inch off the ground. And like my entire workout was like holding 2 5-pound dumbbells and just walking up and down this step up repeatedly for like a half hour, you know, because I couldn't do a lot because of the asthma. Right. Yeah. So like, it's not like the asthma just magically disappeared at this point. So Steve and I had been working out. We were working out for about a year. In that year, I had lost upwards between like 95 and 100 pounds. The problem that I was having was, again, the asthma was still very prevalent in my life. So anytime that I would have an asthma attack, I'd end up back in the hospital and back on these steroids. The steroids would literally make me regain weight overnight, right? Like I'm talking 10 to 15 pounds within a couple of days. That's just how they worked. And my doctor eventually looked at me and he goes, listen, the only way that we're going to get past this little hurdle is if you consider having bariatric surgery. And at the time, I was super against bariatric surgery, right? I was one of the people that I now hate a lot, right? Like, so like I was the guy who was like, no, it's a cheat, you know, you have to do it the old natural way and fuck this and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I'm not going to be that guy. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to like do it. And then every little bit of weight, man, that I would lose would just instantly come back on. And I was just fighting myself. And finally I gave in. Right. And it was super hard to get my family on board, like super hard to get my family on board. But once everybody was on the same page and they had met the team of doctors, you know, and whatever, we got there. We got to surgery day. And I had surgery on November 14th, 2016. To date, I am down a little bit over 300 pounds. And I've sustained that for 8.5 to 9 years at this point.
Wow. That's crazy. That's awesome. So, I mean, definitely understand. There is a whole host of people out there, for whatever reason, they think it's like this... they're like morally superior for not having weight loss surgery, but it's just like, who determines what's cheating? We have tools. It's not cheating. Like we're supposed to use, you know, there's modern medicine has advanced for a reason. So
it's crazy.
If we have tools, we should be allowed to use them without being like, oh yeah, it's cheating. Everyone's different, you know? So as far as the maintenance goes, what has been, because that's the hardest part, right?
Absolutely,
like keeping it off, and that's where a lot of people struggle, even after weight loss surgery. So what has been the key for you to keeping it off? Has there been a lot of family pressure? I know like Italian families are very centered around foods. So how do you deal with that?
So that was a learning experience all in itself, right? You know, like you just said, Italians, we eat when we're happy, we eat when we're sad, we eat when someone dies, we eat when someone's born. Like it's absolutely crazy. And our whole culture really does revolve around food. And at first it was an uphill battle with my family. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't wrap their head around the fact that like I was no longer going to be participating in Sunday dinner. Like when I say participating, I mean having pasta, having chicken cutlets, having, you know, whatever starch and carb and whatever was going to be prepared. Like I unfortunately will not be participating in that. And it caused a lot of fights. You know, it really did, right? You know, being 520 pounds, most of the time, you don't know a lot about food education, nutrition at all, right? So imagine now, you know, you're on this new journey and you're finding out all these things. And the one thing that you want to do is obviously help yourself, right? And the people that you think that you can lean on and you know, depend on would be your family. Unfortunately, your family doesn't realize you know, the difference between a carb and a protein, and will tell you that, you know, pasta is good for you. And like, if you just don't do this to the pasta, it makes it so much more healthier. And I'm just like, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. And one day we will be able to have, you know, the same foods again. But right now, you know, I have to do what I have to do. You know what I mean? Like and it was really difficult, man. Like it was really difficult. But what ended up happening was, I learned how to hack a lot of my favorite foods, right? So like I got into the protein pastas very early, chickpea pastas and whatnot, you know, so I was still able to have kind of what they were having, but just like my own spin on it. And then like, because of my background and because carbs are the main ingredient in everything that ends in a vowel, I began to fear carbs a lot, right? So I didn't have a real slice of pizza for 7 years, which for a few reasons. I say that to people sometimes and they're like, wow, you really did yourself a disservice. Like you can't fear certain foods like that and yada, yada, yada. The thing was for me is pizza stopped being a food for me around like 4.5, 5 years old. And then after that, it became a security blanket. And it became this emotional attachment that I had to get rid of, right? So like, I have distinct memories of fighting with my mom at a very young age as to why a 5th and 6th slice of pizza was a good thing, right? Like, and my mom just be like, you can't have 6 slices of pizza. You're 5 years old. Like, that is a problem. And I used to, like, people, like my family would get pizza and like I would fight if somebody got a bigger slice than me, right? Like I would actually rage out of control and it was a problem. And like I realized the emotional attachment that I had, and I realized that for the time being it was not a good thing, right? Because I didn't know the word stop when it came to this one particular food. Anything else, like I had no other anything that I would consider a food addiction. Yes, you don't get to 520 pounds without some sort of food addiction, right? But like pizza was the only thing that I could equate to heroin at the fucking time. Like, you know, and it's like, it's sad. So I kicked it out of my life for 7 years. You know, and in that time I had met my now wife. We were dating, you know, she was very on board with what I was doing. She was a little perplexed by the fact that it was 7 years and I hadn't had a slice of pizza. But the day after we got married, before we went on our honeymoon, I actually had pizza for the first time in that 7 years. And then that was 2 years ago. And then last year I had pizza 3 times in that year. And this year I'm up to 6. So like I'm slowly allowing it back in my life. I'm testing the waters to actually know that again, I don't want to call it an addiction because that's not what it was. That security blanket aspect is totally gone, right? Yeah. Because I know that it could be a slippery slope. And I know that past traumas have a lot to do with the reason why I was the way that I was, right? So yeah, we kind of went off on a big tangent there and I forgot what you originally had asked me, but So something about Italians and food, but yeah, that's kind of how I dealt with that, and just learning to hack what I was doing, and also learning to tell my family no, which for a lot of us can be a big struggle, a huge struggle.
Yeah, especially when the family doesn't like hearing no, because a lot of families love with food, and when you say no to their food, it's like rejecting their love, and it just becomes very complicated, because it's just like you gotta explain to them it really is not personal, it's my own thing, and it takes the family a while to get it. I'm sure you, as you mentioned. So like, at what point do you feel like, if they got it, where they realized that they were just kind of like contributing to more harm to you by like kind of pushing food on you, or did they ever get there?
No, I don't actually think they ever got it, to be honest with you. And I love them. Bless all of them. I really do. I love them. I have nothing negative to say about them. But I don't necessarily think that they ever truly got it. Now, I hate the saying like, oh, obesity just runs in my family. No one runs in your family. And like, are there heavy people in my life? Yes. Is some of my family members heavy? A little bit. You know what I mean? But no one in my family was 520 pounds. You follow what I'm saying? So like, for them, it was just really hard to grasp, why I was doing these things, and like having a conversation with my nonna and just being like, no, I can't have pasta. What do you mean you can't have pasta? Like, that was an ongoing argument a lot, because again, her love language is food. Her love language is, hey, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. Do you want something to eat? Hey, it's 2:30 in the morning. Do you want something to eat? Like, that's just the way it is. And to tell that woman no when she spent all day cooking whatever the hell it is, it tends to get a little rocky.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. So it's more of like, just no matter what's happening with your family, like holding those strong boundaries for yourself, and just like being sure in your decision in that, despite the pressure that people are putting on you. And then like, as far as you mentioned pizza being basically like your comfort blanket, your emotional comfort blanket. Did you go to like therapy at any point in time to kind of uncover the why behind it? Like that's something you're comfortable about.
I've been in and out of therapy my entire life. I will give a very brief long and short of it, because I really don't get into it on a lot of podcasts. But I had a very troubled childhood, besides the whole like growing up fat and whatever. I come from a divorced home. My mom at one point married a monster, got remarried, and that person was a monster. Was physically and mentally abused for a very big portion of my life, which is where the emotional attachment to pizza comes into play. So yeah, I mean, that's like the long and short of it. I actually didn't start taking therapy seriously though until about a year ago. So actually, before we got on this call, the reason why I was actually late was because of the fact that my therapy session ran over.
I mean, that's awesome though that you're taking it seriously now and you're going. There's probably a big difference between going when you're young, maybe when it wasn't so optional.
Correct.
And then going now when you are making that decision, and it's like kind of the difference between being forced to go to school and then like when you finally get to go to college and pick what you want to do.
Absolutely. And even the same sense of like growing up super heavy and being forced to go on a diet and then making the decision to make a lifestyle change later on in life. Because I wasn't the one who was like, yo, Ma, sign me up to fucking Weight Watchers. Like, I was not on I didn't want to do that on Wednesday nights. You know what I
mean? Yeah, especially as a kid. And it's just, oof, yeah, that had to be rough. So I imagine just wanting to rebel against that as hard as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that sucks. But, I mean, at least, you got to the point where you are now and you're making your own decisions. And now instead of your mom sending you to Weight Watchers, you're pushing food away from her. You're like, now,
right.
Like, you sent me to Weight Watchers and now you want me to eat everything. Okay.
Right.
And like, as far as the addiction thing, I always find this fascinating because I feel like there's still so much research left to be done. And it's hard to, there's people in the camp of like, you can't get addicted to food. It's not an addiction. And then there's the, oh, of course it's an addiction. And there's kind of this like battle within the fitness industry, I'd say a little bit. And it's hard not to acknowledge its addictive properties when it acts so similar to, having a drug addiction. Obviously, it's not as intense as like a drug addiction that you're ruining your life and many others around you just by the pure fact that you're intoxicated. But I feel like the reasons of why to turning to something for comfort are very similar, because anyone who has addiction is most likely dealing with trauma. They're trying to regulate their nervous system. So a lot of people do that with food. So like, where would you say your stance is with that? Do you like?
I definitely
addiction is real, or
I definitely feel so. It's really funny you asked that, because I was just having this conversation recently with my podcast partner, and I definitely come from the sense of like, food addiction exists. Does it exist to the extent that we think it does? I'm not really too sure. Because of the fact of like, again, I think a lot of us are one chasing a dopamine hit, right? Because that's what food becomes for us a lot of the time is we have to chase that dopamine. And also, like, I like to put it like this. Pizza never looked at me and was like, you're fat, you're stupid, you're lazy, you're this, you're that. Pizza just shut the fuck up and I ate it. You know what I mean? Like, it was like that moment of clarity and that moment of silence, and like things just felt right in my life, I never liked to say that I was a food addict, because again, I really wasn't. Like, I was on a medication that was making me gain a lot of weight. It was making me not be able to control the hunger receptors in my brain. Like, these are real scientific side effects. You know what I mean? Like, there's tons of research that you could look into. But Joe Rogan has a quote that I love, where he had a podcast, and he was basically saying that food addiction is the only addiction where you'll ever look at someone, look at an addict and be like, hey, listen, I know you're addicted to food, but you need to eat food 3 times a day in order to live. And you still have to do that even though you're addicted. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't go up to a cokehead or a heroin addict and be like, if you just take this little bit of heroin, or you just do a little bit of this bump, you're going to be all right. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't exist. So it's one side against the other. And will we ever have like a concrete food is addictive thing? I don't know. But I will say this. I don't believe that the food that our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation is the same food that our generation and the generations after us grew up on. There's definitely more addictive properties in these foods because there's a lot of fillers. Obviously, everything is cheaper now, and in order to make things cheaper, you have to put shit in it. And a lot of these things are just chemically based. So, yeah, I do think that there's a little bit of a substance abuse going on. I don't know if the people that have the substance problem even know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think they realize the thing that they're addicted to.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. And I think, too, it says something that these companies that create, like ultra processed foods, they actually hire people to, make it more addictive or to
exactly
make it harder to stop eating. So, like, if it's not addictive, they wouldn't even need to like fill this position of
Correct.
someone telling them how to make it harder to stop eating. So it's just like it's such a, I think we're still just figuring out what the best approach is with things. But I feel like anyone who says just blanket statement, not addictive, too much evidence leads to saying
addiction
otherwise. Yeah. And the way that you removed pizza from your life for a while, that's also something that been toggling with what is the best approach in this situation, because there's this food that just takes over and you cannot stop. So the whole, we love to say everything in moderation, but a lot of times I feel like sometimes you need moments where you're not having everything in moderation.
Correct.
Because you just can't control yourself. So did you find that to be true? And do you like, if you go back, would you do the same thing again? Do you think that was like really helpful that you took it out for a while?
I absolutely had to, and I would absolutely do it again. I do not believe that I would have had the same exact success that I did if I didn't take it out. Because again, it was an emotional level. It was like I romanticized pizza. You know what I mean? Like I romanticized and personified something that didn't deserve a personality or my love, right? And taking it away proved to me on so many levels that I didn't need this thing in my life to feel good about myself, or and I didn't need it as a reward. Because that was the reason why I had failed all these diets back in the day. Yes, they were fad diets, and yes, not all fad diets work. But at the end of the day, like, I was getting no results at all, and it was because I was treating pizza as a reward for, you know, oh, you did good the last 2 days. Well, let's go have some pizza. You did good. Good job, everybody. Like, and then fucking 6 slices of pizza is gonna set you back, you know, as far back as you can go. So yeah, I needed to rewire my brain. And, you know, obviously, and also I realized that it was an addiction when I was allowing myself to have cauliflower pizza, right? Because then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to fit cauliflower pizza in, right? Because after a while, like, how do you date somebody and not have pizza? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. But anyway, once I realized that, like, I could have cauliflower pizza while other people were eating real pizza, and I wasn't going out of my fucking bird, and, like, I wasn't rushing, and I didn't order 7 pies of cauliflower pizza. You follow what I'm saying? So, like, once I realized that there was no addiction level there, I was like, okay, I can, it was a real thing. I can kick it, and eventually I can let it back in my life. And that's what I always told everybody, right? Like, I turned around to all of my friends, all of my family, and I was like, listen, I'm not the type of person that wants to eliminate anything from my life, right? Even people now, when they DM me and they're like, hey, I'm starting a weight loss journey. Like, is there any foods that you think I should restrict or not have anymore or whatever? Like, I'll always tell them, like, hey, there's allowed to be some foods in your lifestyle that are non-negotiables. This one had to leave. And I hope that no one ever experiences the feelings that I felt, like, because that's the only time where I could really say, like, yeah, there was a little bit of an addiction there. Like, there was a high that went down. And now when I recently have had it, I don't experience that high anymore. Yes, pizza's amazing and I love pizza, and I still get the same sensations, I guess, that you could say when eating it, but, like, there's not that, oh my God, I need more, or oh my God, this person has had more than me, so I need to have more now. You follow what I'm saying? Like, I can have a slice and a half or 2 slices of pizza and be good and not think about it. My problem was, like, it lived in my brain and I constantly thought about it. It was just constantly always going, dude. Like, I can't, it's scary. Like, it really is. It's super scary.
Yeah. Like, it's probably, fill in whatever void that you were needing to fill at that point. So,
yeah.
I mean, it did a lot of work and, came out from looking at it as a comfort thing. I mean, you kind of had to with surgery. I'm sure a lot of your comfort was kind of pulled from you, which I'm sure was probably hard because it's pretty, overnight drastic. Without, the subtle, just take little steps kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's probably, like, you worked on whatever void it was that you were trying to fill with that. And it almost seems like it would be a good idea or, like, appropriate for someone to, like, remove whatever it is very troublesome.
Yeah.
Go to therapy, do the work behind the why or whatever void you're trying to fill it with, and then, like, introducing it back later and kind of seeing how it goes with that. And maybe that's, like, the biggest difference between, like, a food addiction and a drug addiction. Like, drugs, you cannot. You're just not, you just don't do it. You can't go back and see if it's okay. There's no small dose, it's gonna be okay. But I feel like with food, it might be more possible to, bring things back in because it is so largely reliant on whatever your emotional status is, and you're looking for comfort in some way. But in that sense, I've also seen people who have had gastric bypass and then end up, like, getting into drugs later or alcohol later.
Yeah,
on,
transfer addiction.
Didn't do that work. So, like, were you aware of that? And how did you kind of prevent that from happening? Did you struggle with that at all? Or
so I didn't know it had a name. right? Like I never knew what transfer addiction was till way later on in my journey. Was I aware that, you know, I could develop another habit? Yeah, kind of, sort of. But like when I was heavy, dude, like I was doing a lot of bad shit that I should have never been doing in the first place. You know, like I was playing with fire the whole time I was 520 pounds. Like that one near-death experience that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast doesn't really even blanket my entire life. And like the fact that I'm even on this podcast or do any podcast or I'm here today is just wild to me. But yeah, anyway, so I didn't experience transfer addiction because, one, I didn't believe I had an addiction. And I think because I didn't believe I had an addiction, I didn't think I could put whatever void I was trying to fill into something else. I also had this really weird mindset that like I was never supposed to be fat because of the fact that it was a medical side effect. I had truly brainwashed myself over many, many, many years to really believe and truly believe that I was never supposed to be fat. So what I think I did, and you have to follow me, and I know I'm going to sound like a psycho on this, but what I did was I manifested for years that, because I constantly would tell people, like a psychopath at a very young age and through my young adulthood, when I'm skinny, when I'm skinny, when I'm skinny. Yeah, but when I'm skinny, and I brainwashed myself into truly believing that one day it would happen. Now, I hate the word skinny now, but like that was the word, you know what I mean? And I think that like I laid this like subconscious groundwork of eventually getting there, and I like tricked my consciousness or whatever. But like I don't feel like that. I feel like that's kind of why I didn't have like that big drastic transfer addiction. I mean, listen, I like nicotine products, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to lie, you know, and I really don't usually openly talk about that. But like, you know, I have my vices, but I didn't go from being fat to all of a sudden being at the bottom of a bottle, whether it be a pill bottle or an alcohol bottle. You know what I mean? Like that was never my thing. And I truly don't believe that I have an addictive personality. I do know I have ADHD. And like I know my ADHD loves dopamine, and sometimes I got to chase that dopamine with different things, you know, like I have a water here, I have an energy drink behind my computer, I have my vape charging to the side. So like in that sense, yeah, I guess a little, but like I don't know. I don't look at it like that. I really don't. Yeah. But I know people who have suffered from it.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing too with like ADHD, people don't talk about enough, is more likely to, you know, have binge eating disorder.
Correct.
The impulsiveness, you know, there's factors to that will contribute to, you know, being overweight and that sort of thing.
Well, that's something I learned in therapy too. Like I learned that what I thought was a binge eating disorder was really just me unmasking at the end of the night. Like, yeah. And that really blew the fucking doors open in my head like crazy, because I was like, yo, you're absolutely right. Because, you know, I never found a time where like I was secretly binge eating, but I always found that towards like 9 o'clock at night, I was having an upward amount of food always throughout my whole life. And then that's when my therapist was just like, hey, I don't actually think that you have a binge eating disorder. I think that you just unmask, and all of a sudden around 9, 10 o'clock at night, you take your mask off and you just feel really comfortable with the world because no one's going to bother you. And you just enjoy the things that give you the dopamine hit. And I was just like, wow. Like I saw my whole life at like a 360 all the way around. And I was like, you know, you might be onto something. Maybe you should take this up as a profession.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's something that, you know, we're still discovering ways how, you know, ADHD impacts, you know, eating habits and just lifestyle habits in general. So, gosh, there needs to be more conversation surrounding
way
that.
more, dude. I mean, yeah, way more.
Therapists need to, I mean, maybe we're still figuring it out, but I'm like, if y'all could just like talk about that for a good solid month.
Lock you all in a room and just everyone talk about it. How old are you, bro? I forgot. How old are you?
37. No.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 31. So we're not that too far off from each other. I feel like when we were younger, they were not giving out ADHD, you know, diagnoses the way that they do now. So like for me, I have all the paperwork from when I was a kid. Like I had an IEP, I was in special ed class, but they never wanted to say that I had ADHD. It's so wild. So like when I look back at the paperwork, it'll be like, doesn't sit still, talks out of turn, lazy, doesn't do homework, yada, yada, yada. But then it'll have like a little column. It'll be like ADHD. No. And I'm just like, hello, the fuck you doing?
That did probably such a disservice for you.
Yeah, dude. Mm-hmm.
I can imagine like how different it would be if they would at least acknowledge that, because it just drives, not like your whole life, but how they would approach even learning, like teaching you things and just everything as a child, like development wise, is so important. So it definitely
it would have changed a lot of things for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I mean, it's good that we're more aware of things now. Maybe on the other side of the spectrum, where it's like everybody's got ADHD, myself included. So it's just like, who doesn't at this point? I don't know.
Right. No. Yeah. I got my official diagnosis last year, and he was just like, I need to let you know, you are on the spectrum, and he goes, then you have ADHD, and I was just like, yeah, I kind of knew all this, and he was like, well, how does it feel now that it came out of somebody else's mouth? And I was just like, I just feel like you told me something I already knew. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted this like rush of joy, like, because I've seen videos online of people finally getting their diagnosis and it being like this fucking wave of emotion. And then when he said it, I was just like, yeah, I knew I was right. Like, that's all it was. Like, it was just like, all right, let's move to the next part of the session. Like, you didn't have to tell. Like, I'm glad you told me, but.
Yeah. Do you feel like it kind of shapes how you make decisions now, or how you move through life? Or
I will say that it makes things kind of easier to explain to my wife when I'm having, like, now I'm able to identify when I'm getting super overwhelmed, right? So when I used to get overstimmed and super overwhelmed and whatever, I would just spiral out of control and I would fucking become an asshole and just like get very short and off the fucking rip and just like, yeah, a house on fire. And now I'm able to recognize when that feeling is overcoming and kind of like stop. And I will literally physically call a timeout. And when I call a timeout, my wife knows, hey, whatever's going on, it doesn't matter right now. Like, it does not matter what the fight is. It could be the end of the world. And if I call a timeout, it's like, okay, we're not mad at each other for right now, because if, this is going to get to the point of no return. You know what I mean? So in that sense, yes, it has made it easier. But then there's some times where I'm just like, I feel like I'm almost giving myself an excuse and another crutch. And it's like, oh, I can't do this because I have ADHD. And I've never been able to do this because I have ADHD. And I'll never be able to do this because I have ADHD. And like, I don't like to think like that, like, ever. I have organizational issues. I've always had organizational issues, and now that I'm a 31-year-old man, I can see why organization is so important, and to not have it now is a huge disservice, and it's really hard. And like, there's people out there that are just like, well, just fucking get organized. And like, you don't understand. Like, I can't snap my fingers and just make it fucking happen. You know what I mean? Like, a week ago, I had to go through 6 months of mail because I just let my mail get out of control, Yeah. And I felt like an idiot, I felt like a loser. And I'm reading mail from like December of 2023. And I'm just like, well, this is irrelevant at this point.
You're like, hope it wasn't important because I ignored that.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like for me personally too, before I was diagnosed, I was kind of like self-medicating with both caffeine and just really very rigid structure. I'm still that way, but it's just like, I was struggling so hard to keep organized that I was just like, we're just going to do the same shit every single day. We're not going to get away from the routine, because this is the only way I know to
how to do things
and on task.
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely familiar. It's very hard to be organized when you're struggling with ADHD.
And it's crazy because now my ADHD, it does this weird thing where like, now it's just like, hey, do you want to be productive today or do you want to eat today? And I don't get to do both. I don't like that at all, But yeah, like I also noticed, and because when I didn't know, right, officially that I had ADHD, and like I have a very structured routine when it comes to my cardio. So I do my cardio at home, and because I purchase a recumbent bike and whatever, and that's just the cardio that I like to do, and I like to do that cardio fasted. Not that there's any scientific, anything that shows that fasted cardio is more beneficial than non-fasted cardio, but I personally like to wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, do whatever business I need to do in the bathroom, come back and get on the bike. And that's what I like to do. If someone interrupts that process, it was bad. Even sometimes this day it's bad. You know what I mean? Like I have to stay on that no matter what time it is. It doesn't make a difference. Like when I wake up, I could wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I could wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Regardless, I'm going to use the bathroom and I'm getting on the bike. Don't talk to me for the next 40 minutes. You know what I mean? Don't look at me. Don't fucking talk to me. Don't text me. Whatever. Just leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, no, it's like your anchor.
Yes.
It's the thing that keeps you okay and ready and able to move on with your day from there on. It's like without that first anchor of the day, you feel a little lost and grumpy and agitated because you're just like, I don't know what to fucking do anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I'm glad you can relate to that.
Yeah, I definitely can. And it's also interesting, like when you go on vacations or when you have people over and you're like, it's not personal, I'm gonna do this thing because I have to. Yeah. Yeah, like no one's forcing me. I just like it's for everyone's best.
But I'm a nut job.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in everyone's best interest if I do
it really is. Like if you want pleasant side of me, then I got to do this. All right.
Yep.
So for like currently, let's talk about trolls a little bit because I feel like this is kind of how we got started with
trolls. Yeah, let's do it.
This conversation, and the internet is fucking brutal, and it's full of people who have nothing better to do. And I know you get trolled quite frequently, and
now I do. Yeah, it's crazy. This was never a thing.
Really? Okay.
Never.
So people are just getting worse.
Yeah. So either society's getting worse or that younger generation finally found their voice or whatever. I don't know what it is, dude, but like, again, 520 pounds. At some point in time, I was bullied, right? But I would never say that I was bullied to the point where like I had no friends or I was scared to go to school or stuff like that. It wasn't that bad. But I will say that I was cyberbullied before cyberbullying was a thing. So like people would make fake screen names on AIM and be like, "Hey, what's up, fat boy?" and then disappear off into the cyber fucking shadows. You know what I'm saying? But then other than that, it was very always kind of calm, like whatever. Then I started this Instagram thing, and honestly, when I started this journey on Instagram, dude, if you look at me, I should have been a glutton for punishment. Like you should have been able to say whatever you wanted and whatever, and I never had trolls. And I would be like, I would get brought on podcasts all the time, and this would get brought up, and they'd be like, "So how do you deal with online trolls?" And I'd always be like, I don't know, I don't really get hated on. And then I had a lot of creator friends, and they would constantly say the same thing to me, like, "Hey, like, how's your comments? Like, are people like being cool or like whatever?" And I'd be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Like, everyone's great." And then maybe like a year and a half ago, all of a sudden my content got very, very popular on Facebook, and I started going viral on Facebook, and that's where the trolls started. So like for me, I don't get any trolls really on Instagram. I get a lot of trolls on Facebook, a lot. And it ranges, you know what I mean? And it's really funny because I said before, I think it's the younger generation, but really it's a lot of old people. Because I mean, you have a lot of old people on Facebook, right? So like, I'll get fucking torn apart by someone's grandma or someone's uncle. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, now, controversy creates cash. That's one of my favorite sayings in the world. So like, I can't get too mad when people like cause a little ruckus in the comments, because that's just going to make the video or whatever go a little bit more viral. But I have to be honest with you. I don't care if you talk about my weight. I don't care if you talk about my scars. What I'm going through right now is I'm getting dragged through the mud because I'm losing my hairline. And people are pointing it out left and right. And dude, it's killing me. Like I actually don't have the backbone for it at all. Like I really thought that like I was going to be really good. But then I've come to realize that like my whole entire life when I was heavy, the only thing that I actually liked about myself was my hair. So my mom had reminded me of a story that like I was in the 2nd grade and they did like this big icebreaker thing on the first day of school. And supposedly I went up to the front of the room and I was like, yeah, I know I'm fat, but like, have you seen this hair? And like, that was it. And like, I was just the guy after that. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize that, but I knew like my whole entire life, I always had this obsession with my hair because it was the only thing that I liked. And now that I'm losing it and people are pointing out the fact that like I might be losing it, I can't get like, I can't get past it. It fucks me up all the time. It really does. And then obviously a big one, which is, you know, kind of how we ended up having this conversation is I get called out that I'm in the trans community all the time, which doesn't bother me. Right. Like I'm not going to be one of those people who are like, oh no, like, blah, blah, blah. That's not my MO, dude. Like I don't really, people are people to me at the end of the day. I wouldn't change anything about myself. I wouldn't change anything about my scars. And if you're a person who thinks that I used to be another gender and now I'm a different gender, then I guess you're not the educated one. Like, yeah. I know the truth about myself. And just so like, and I also feel like I see it in a different lens, which, you know, you and I had that conversation via DM. Like, it's almost as if I can now see what you guys are going through. Like I'll never try to, you know, take that victimization or anything like that and try to make it my own. Like that's not why I'm here. That's not why I'm speaking or anything like that. Oh, yeah. But I can see black and white what people say. And if you are someone who has had that journey and, you know, you are part of the trans community, I can only imagine what thoughts run through your mind when someone makes an accusation or tries to call you out about something or whatever, because honestly, I love my chest scars. I waited my whole entire life to get my chest scars. You know what I mean? And I know that there's people in the trans community who could literally say that same sentence verbatim. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So like my scars tell a great story. Your scars tell a great story, and no one can take that story away from us. It's them. It's those people that have the insecurities. It's those people that have a huge problem in their life, whether they want to admit it or not. And the only way that they deal with that problem is by taking it out on random people online. And that's it. And that's how the trolls were born. You know what I mean? Like, and that's their prerogative, right? Like at the end of the day, I go to bed, I kiss my wife goodnight, and I'm great. You know what I mean? I wake up in the morning and I'm great. As long as the check clears at the end of the week, like I don't give a fuck. Like you could call me whatever you want. But just don't make fun of my hair. You know what I'm saying?
Like there's a line.
Yeah, and that's the line.
It's the hairline that's the line.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, and we did have this conversation, and it's like people, partially why you're getting more trolling, or probably maybe more prevalent people thinking, you know, that you're FTM, you're trans because of your scars and stuff. It's just because it's like a witch hunt right now. It's like this thing where people are like guessing who is trans, like who's born a man or a woman, and it's just like, when did this become like a sport? Like, can we stop? We'll probably tell you if we're trans. If we don't, it's none of your fucking business at the same time. But yeah, you know, it's funny you mentioned how Facebook was like the major source of the trolling, because I was thinking how like I get a lot of it too. Majority of mine is on Instagram. It started up on Facebook, but then I was like, nope. And I like turned the comments on to only people who followed my page, because I'm like, I cannot handle this from both sides right now. Right. So Instagram is like the main source of trolling for me. And every time I'll get, whether it's someone telling me to kill myself or, you know, the most brutal comments that you could get, it's always someone who is older. It's not even younger. Right. And I'm like, is this people who were bullied, or who like are secretly have always been assholes and now they have a way to be an asshole anonymously, and they're just like, yeah, I enjoy, they probably enjoy it because they're making themselves feel better by attacking somebody else. But personally, I've never met someone who is happy, who has left a negative comment. I have never left an actual like troll negative comment on anyone's post ever.
No, me neither.
It doesn't even cross my mind. Like, if you don't like something, you just keep scrolling.
You just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my head around that too. Like, what must be going on in someone's life for them to actually not only stop, but then to think of something and then write it down and then press enter. Like, to me, that is just like, it just fucks with me. Like, I'm just like, how bad is your life? You know what I mean? Like, and then sometimes, you know, they want you to stoop to their level, and sometimes they can do a good job of getting you to get there. But most of the time, you know, if you just stay level-headed, you realize that, you know, they do a good job of just like, they let you know who they are and whatever, you know. You can't let them exist too much in your head, because they have no control over you. They have no control over your future. They have no idea who you really are. And let a motherfucker say that to my face. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's always my mindset. You know what I mean? Like, I know for a fact that if I was face to face with half these people, they wouldn't dare to say any of the things that they said to me, said about me online. You know what I mean? Like, you could be a fucking internet tough guy all you want. I'll be a real life tough guy. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, bro, you don't think that I got into fights in high school because of my weight? Of course I did. But that was where the bullying stopped. You know what I mean? They would want to test the big guy, see if the big guy was actually a powerful big guy or if he was a fucking little wimpy guy. And then that was it. You throw a couple of hands, you fucking smoke a Newport at the end, and everyone goes home happy. That's high school. Like, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Oh, man, the good old days when bullying was...
It was so easy.
Now it's just like coming at you everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can't fight them because it's digital.
Because it's digital, right.
Yeah, but it's also like people have to be severely miserable to create multiple accounts just for
multiple accounts. Yes,
I've noticed that. Like, you block one and then you have a similar comment come back on with another account that's saying pretty much the same thing. You're like, you have, how many accounts does this person have?
Yes, bro.
What is wrong with you?
Bro, I have 2 Instagram accounts and I hate working. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's more than 2. Yeah, seriously. I've got a few, but I don't even touch the other ones. I'm just like, I can't keep up. Whatever. So for people to just have this as their hobby, like, I can't imagine it. Like, at night I relax by, you know, I'll watch something on TV and I will scroll, you know, Instagram, Threads, whatever. Threads is super fun these days for me.
You like Threads?
Imagine I do. How about you?
I like it a little bit. I really was into it when it dropped. Like, I really had a lot of faith in it being the next Twitter. Because I didn't like Twitter. Like, I was on Twitter in the very early stages when you could actually talk to your favorite celebrity and they would answer you back. Like, I have a thread of just like old shit of just like cool celebrities I would talk to all the time, whatever. But then the trolls invaded Twitter and I was just like, I have no reason to be here. Like, I don't want to talk about politics all day. And I stopped going on Twitter a long time ago, like 2011. I just stopped going on Twitter. And then Threads came out and I had a lot of hope. And then, like, I'll post on it here and there, and I'm pretty sure, like, I have the automatic, like, if I post to Facebook, it automatically makes it a thread type of thing. But, like, I don't see a lot of back and forth engagement. You know what I mean? Like, I made one post that went, I guess, viral on Threads, and it was because I called out the U.S. healthcare system. And, like, I was just, like, perplexed. And, like, people just coming out of the woodwork and just being like, what you're saying is not true. And, like, I had literally made a post that, like, I was sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's office for 4.5 hours. And, like, this is absurd. And, like, the U.S. health system, the healthcare system needs to change. Like, I don't know how it is by you, dude, but here in New York, it takes 6 months to get a doctor's appointment. And when you go to the doctor, it's an all-day affair. Like, you can't, like, go to the doctor and go to work if you work a 9 to 5 on the same day. It just, you can't do it. Like, you're sitting in the waiting room for 2 to 3 to 4 hours at a time. And that's just how it is here in New York. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm tired of it. Like, I'm someone who's sick all the time. You know, I'm constantly going to doctors. That's just, you know, how I've been forever. So, like, I see it on the forefront. Like, I know how it is. And then for someone who like doesn't know me or anything, and then calling me unpatriotic or socialist or, you know, this, that, and the third, where I'm just like, hey, dude, I just want to make a doctor appointment and not waste my entire day. Like, that's what I was getting at. Like, I'm really sorry that you took it to that extreme, that you think that I'm some commie fuck. Like, yeah.
Wow. I feel like anytime you have something against the healthcare system, someone will automatically just assume that, which is strange, because I feel like everyone should be concerned about our healthcare system.
Right.
No matter what side you're on, like, you are a person, you are a human who is going to need healthcare at some point.
Correct.
So you should care.
And I didn't realize me saying that you wait all day was like such a hot button topic that like people were going to jump down my throat.
Yeah, that's fucking bizarre. So I can understand why you wouldn't like Threads for that. I've had that experience more with Twitter. But it's like all political on Twitter. But, you know, Threads was, you know, it had like a good initial start and it kind of died down. And now it's become more regular. And I feel like it's going to stay that way and get more and more busy.
Cool. So I'll start getting more active on it.
Yeah, I've had a lot more positive experiences, especially with some back and forth. I've had, you know, some negative, but it's not quite as crazy as Twitter. Like, Twitter has just been invaded with spam. You can't even look at a post and you look at all the responses. It's all bots. There's no like real substance to it.
Right.
It's all like conspiracy theories and whatever. So I'll do that. I'll go on Twitter just because I'm like, what's going on this space in the internet in this part of the world? And then I'll go to Threads for like a little relief because it just seems more conversational and not so like attacky kind of. Probably also depends on your feed and your algorithm, whatever is showing you. But I do like it just for the fact that it seems to be a good alternative to Twitter for me right now. I've enjoyed some interactions I've had with people that I wouldn't have interacted with on Instagram because I didn't come across them. And so it has been kind of fun with that. But yeah, I just can't imagine someone like at the end of the day going to do whatever relaxes them and they're like, all right, let me pull out my 10 profiles and troll all of these people tonight and relax and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, what? I just want to be a fly on these people's walls and be like, what is your life really like that it just drives you to do this?
Absolutely.
It's bizarre.
You need to watch the documentary on Netflix, Anonymous.
I think I have, but I was like partially not paying attention or
so I just recently watched it. Yeah, 100%. But I just watched it like 3 nights ago, and obviously at some point it gets a little political, which I didn't really love about it. But you know, it talks about the group Anonymous, that is like this, you know who Anonymous is, the world saving group or whatever, and how it was born on, you remember 4chan? You know what 4chan is? Okay, so it was born on 4chan, and then like supposedly 4chan had like split within itself into these 2 groups, and it was like the people that wanted to troll and meme the internet forever and hate on everyone, and then this like one sector of people who are like, no, we need to use the internet for good, and like that's how Anonymous was born. And like,
now you're refreshing my memory a little.
Yeah, so like you go back on like this history of 4chan and you realize that like, yeah, it was at one point infiltrated by these people that like obviously thought very low of themselves, were probably getting bullied in real life, didn't know how to combat that. And then once the popularity of the internet and being able to hide yourself and whatever became more and more attractive and elusive, they just went with it, you know what I mean? And they rode that wave, and that's where trolling was really born and cultivated. You know, it was on 4chan and like these memes and whatever. And listen, I love a good meme. I love a good meme, and I love laughing at the internet, and I have dark humor. But there is a line sometimes that you have to draw, right? Like where it just gets to be a little too much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see someone hurting themselves. Like that's not my MO. But some people get off with that. Like, it's a crazy world out there.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what Twitter has turned into, is like another version of 4chan, because everything is pretty much a go, and you do come across videos where you're like, holy fuck, I was not prepared to see that. Where did that come from? I need to like going to walk now because
you have to like scrub your eyes. Yeah, 100%.
It's like non-consensual, just like this, emotional like bam straight to the face.
Yep.
But it's I don't know what the internet is doing right now. It's up to a lot of not great things. Sometimes I miss I feel like in the internet, I feel like there's an era. If you probably know, or I don't know if you've started watching like fitness YouTubers and stuff. There was like an era where it was very much more innocent. I would like to compare it to like the 90s. Of, like,
oh no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And now it's just like, holy shit. There's just so much more to look out for, and it's chaos.
Because the internet quickly became like, I think it was like our generation always kind of like wanted to be on TV, right? Because TV was very prevalent when we were growing up. And then when the switch went to the internet, everyone kind of like wanted to be famous, and they just started putting everything on the internet, and now it became the norm. You know what I mean? And I blame our generation and the generation that came after us. But yeah, like I feel like, well, one, you didn't know anybody outside of a 10-mile radius of your high school at one point in time. You know what I mean? Like that just didn't happen. Now I have friends all over the fucking world. And it's wild. Some of my best friends I met because of the internet, because of social media, but I would never know these people. If this was 1997, 1996, and we had the internet from then now, I wouldn't know half my best friends.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like for all the good that the internet has done, there's definitely been some bad, for sure. But I try to look at the positive, yeah, I definitely try to look at the positive.
Yeah, and there always is a positive takeaway. I think it's really how you approach it. Of course, it's hard when you are getting, trolled nonstop, and it's just, it can be hard to really push down and see things in more positive ways. But outside of that, it's done so much. We have like our support systems are on the internet. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've found support in the weight loss community, and you have your group of people, and trans community, same thing, or fitness community. So it's like there is still so much good. It's just unfortunate. There's always going to be people that abuse it and make it not so great in certain ways. But it's like at least we kind of still do. I mean, to a certain extent, have control of how we like the filters that we allow to like let certain information in. It's harder if it's directly sent to you. But at least like if you're not just the target of trolling, you can kind of filter things out a little easier with all the controls they have, at least these days. Unless it's Twitter, there's not really any controls of that. No. Just stay off Twitter.
That's a no man's land.
It really is. But yeah, I mean, I've kept you for long enough. Is there any like last tips or words or any topics we didn't cover that you really wanted to touch on before we kind of wrap things up?
I mean, if anyone is listening to this and like you're on this fitness journey, like I need you to realize that like it's always gonna suck before it gets better, right? Like you're gonna want to quit a million times. And it's that 1,000,001th time that you don't quit that's going to take you to the finish line. So, like, fail. I want you guys to fail always. Fail every single day, but give up never. Because the moment you give up is the moment all that hard work that you put in order to fail means absolutely nothing. So strive for failure. The more you strive for failure, the closer you reach to success. And always remember that your current situation is not your final destination.
Man, I love that. That's like, yeah, that's deep. That's powerful.
Thanks, pal.
So thank you for that. Socials, where people can find you. And I pronounced it wrong in the beginning. So
no, it's all good. So I'm on all platforms at JARPS_journey. So that's JARPS journey. And then I do have a documentary that will be coming out soon. We are in the process of getting that sold. So you can follow that at Anti-Diet Diet Club _doc on Instagram to keep up with everything going on with that. And you can also listen to my podcast, the Cheating on Fat podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. I sit down with Danny Mabley, who was formerly on Instagram as Danny Gets Fit. He had, he's one of the OGs in the weight loss space. He gained back some of his weight, and now he's actually on a GLP-1 journey. So our podcast is from the lens of, I'm the guy who had bariatric surgery, he's the guy who's on a GLP-1, and we're cheating on fat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I followed him for a long time, so
he's
I didn't
awesome.
know you
people.
had a podcast, so now I'm gonna check it out because both of you have very good energy. So would love to take a listen.
Hell yeah.
To that. Everyone else also, because I know you guys. First of all, you're hilarious. I feel like you just have this natural, presence.
Thank you.
Definitely
appreciate
that. To that. But,
I appreciate you having me on, dude. Like, seriously.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for coming on. Super appreciate it. I always like to get all different types of perspective, especially pertaining to tools, because I know it is such a thing where people think they can't have this weight loss surgery or take, things like Ozempic or whatever because they think it's cheating or they don't want to be shamed for it. And can we just move past the shame?
Yeah, we have to.
It does not help anybody. So I appreciate this conversation.
Oh yeah, man. I'm glad that we had this.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Go give him a follow as soon as possible. And peace out. Talk to you next time.
Be good.